All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Blue Podcast. This is the Red, White, and Blue show with myself, Joe, and I'm joined this week by Billy and Jack. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing all right, thank you. How are you, Joe?
All good, thank you. All good. We've had a couple of weeks. We've been away due to technical issues, but we're all good. We're all back. Before we get started, we're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by New Year's Day. So if you have anyone who'd enjoy watching or listening to these podcasts or any of the other shows on the channel, please do let them know. And also check out our new and improved merch, which has been out for a few weeks now. We're going to start off with the NBA Summer League this week. Jack, do you want to fill us in on what sort of the Summer League's all about?
So the Summer League has about 30 teams in it, and they all play 5 games each. And it's not a very long tournament. It's from this year, the 8th to the 17th of August. So it's all done now, and basically it gets all the young players who you may not see that much off the bench and more onto a full-time roster to give them some preparation into what it's like to be a proper NBA player.
Yeah. Do you think, because you said it's such a short tournament, do you think it gives them enough of practice, or do you think it's literally just like throwing them in a deep end, have a quick run around, see what it's like with the other new NBA players, or do you think they could do with sort of a longer a summer league that sort of went almost simulated an NBA over the whole summer?
Um, I think it could do with like a few more games just because they're quite enjoyable to watch. I do quite like watching them to see what the draft picks this year will carry forwards to their
Mhm.
teams, and actually to see if any of them might be a possible starter.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, to follow up on that, Jack. Have any draft picks been taking your eye? Anyone looking good this
Um,
year?
so of course I've been looking at the first 3 draft picks,
Yeah.
and uh, matter of fact, the second pick, Jalen Green, has been the one to catch everyone's eye. He's done better than Cunningham in my opinion, uh, and he's great for the Rockets. Um, just a catch up. The Rockets lost Harden, um, but they gained Green, and even though he's not that experienced, he is putting forward a good amount of points. I don't think it's enough to get into playoffs this year, of course, because now they have a very young team, but they have the foundations to actually build up to get there and possibly win a finals.
Mhm.
Um,
Is
Cade
yeah.
also did very well. He scored a 40% accuracy on 3 pointers, and he's really chatting right now because he's like, I want all these big guys to be guarding me. So the Claw, uh, Embiid, and just big names. He even called out LeBron a little bit. Um, yeah. And then Evan Mobley, yeah, great stats for a big man, but I kind of was expecting something a little different with him. Yeah, those are
Sort of
the.
following. Oh yeah, well yeah, go on.
uh,
Let you
I
finish.
was just gonna say those are the 3 draft picks I was looking at.
Mhm. I was just going to say, following on from that, you sort of saying you sort of having a bit of a big mouth, sort of calling people out. How much in the summer league, sort of being such a short tournament and all being young players, how much of an opportunity is there for players to make a name for themselves, or is it purely sort of practice and sort of getting them ready? Because it sort of seems if you're playing against people who should be of your standard or aren't even sort of proper NBA quality, they're sort of young players or they're on the bench. Does it sort of come across a bit arrogant or seem a bit of a waste of time trying to sort of big yourself up, or is it actually competitive enough that you can sort of say those things and sort of show that you're NBA ready, even though you're not really playing against NBA caliber yet?
Well, you gotta remember these guys have just come out of college. Not all of them. Some of them might have been in the NBA for like 2 years. Some of
Mhm.
them will be in G League. And what it does is it allows scouts to really find who's the best. within that kind of group which won't be starting on their roster. Sometimes, obviously, people will put their name fully out there, like Cunningham and Green, and they might be able to find a starting spot on that roster. And I think that's why this massive confidence is actually needed, because now he's put his name out there. People who he's called out against will want to prove him wrong. Maybe not all of them, but uh, but lots of people will want to prove that they're a very defensive player, maybe, and then they'll be like, well, he just said that names like the Claw, that they're going to be able to guard him, not be able to guard him. Maybe they could guard him and prove him wrong that way.
Yeah, but it sort of seems like the wrong way around. It doesn't seem like young players should make it feel like the older players need to prove themselves. It sort of seems like you get it the wrong way around. I think if I was an NBA player and someone from the summer league was sort of calling me, I thought I'd sort of feel like, well, wait until they get. I'm not going to stoop down to that level. I'm going to sort of make them make the first move. Yeah, I can sort of see how that would happen if, especially if you're a professional athlete and someone's sort of coming for your ego. It's all very sort of ego, like, well, I don't want to say egoistical, because that makes it all sound sort of on looking on themselves, but sort of your pride's quite a big thing. So I can sort of see why they'd come out with that. You were talking about sort of the G League and other players. I know, sort of putting it across to the NFL. In the preseason for the NFL, they often try out a lot of sort of pathway players, which are players from sort of Germany, Australia, Mexico, and things like that. Are there any other sort of basketball leagues around the world where they sort of bring in players to the summer league just to try them out, or is it purely sort of college and young NBA players?
I'm pretty sure they do bring in people around the world and stuff like that, but they normally end up in the draft, and if they don't, then they're just a young player in that league trying to make a name for themselves. Because obviously there's loads and loads of people in the draft, and not everyone can be picked. So we have 2 rounds, and if you don't make it into the second round draft pick, then you're kind of on your own. But people can still sign you and then put you onto those teams.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's sort of. I suppose it's better to have sort of a short tournament where you can give a few people a chance than having nothing at all. I suppose, as we say, there might be some scope to improve, but I don't know whether it's profitable. I mean, in the end, it's all a business. So whether it works out for them or whether they're happy how it is, I suppose. You can see in the back of your background there, Jack. You got your Mavericks jersey pinned up high and proud. Do you want to let us? Have you been following them at all, or how have they been doing in the summer league?
So we had a bit of stinker in the summer league. At first, I was like, "Oh no, we're not going to win any games." But then we've won our last battle, Miami Heat, and it felt pretty good. I was just like, finally, I've watched you guys lose every single time. We won by 1 point.
I suppose. Were there any? I can't remember. We did do a section on the draft of the Mavs, but I can't remember how well you said they did. Did you see any of the Mavs draft picks in action, and did they give you an early indication of they might be good in the proper teams?
We had no draft picks, so I think that's why we didn't so great. But we do have some players with quite high ceilings, so it's good to see where they end up. One player which comes to mind, I hope I pronounce this right, Omori something like that. But he got in a fight right in our game against the Kings.
Oh right.
Conor has some background Kings information on it, but I can't remember it for the life of me. He
Yeah.
said so. Our player basically did a flagrant foul on Metu, and Metu just punched him in the face. So that ended up in him being suspended next game as well. And what Conor said was it was something about he got injured or something a season or two ago, and he hasn't quite forgiven his players for not standing up for him or something.
Mhm.
No.
For a non-contact sport, I don't think you'd expect to see one player punching another, especially in the summer league where it's sort of you're just trying to make a name for yourself. You're not trying to. You're not sort of desperate to win as much as you are in the big leagues. But I suppose these things happen, especially when, as you say, it's been built up over a couple of years.
It is just a very competitive sport as well. Some people are just entirely driven by ego, and if you step on their ego a little bit, they're just going to fight back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was just going to ask one more question about the NBA summer leagues. So, in the NFL preseason, for effect, like you give the senior players like a little bit of game time just to get them game ready. So you're just saying how you were saying about how in the summer leagues you have the college players coming in, young players, free agency players haven't really had that much game time. So what would you say about like the older players, like just to get them a bit game ready? Is there anything? Is there any like preseason equivalent for it, or do they just let them in the deep end basically?
They do have like some games going up to it. I don't really watch them though, and I'm not sure if it's a preseason game or something. But they do quite a lot to get the players ready. Lots of training as well. So last year, KP did quite badly, and basically he's just been training his ass off this entire time just to try and get starting spot on the roster.
Yeah. All right. Well, if that's all that Jack has to say about that, I think we've got a bit of NFL preseason we want to talk about as well. So NFL preseason, leading on from that, it's just going on for a couple of weeks now, I believe. We just finished week 2. I believe Joe wanted to talk about a little bit of that. You had a few people you want to talk about. You saw a couple of quarterbacks, I believe.
Yeah, mostly. Yeah, it's mostly quarterbacks I want to talk about. I mean, there's in terms of the whole team as a problem. We've spoken about it before. You don't really get a lot of information about whole teams from preseason. Everyone plays their second team, or they're trying out new players. They're wary of injuries and things like that. So I think QBs, because we've had a few QB battles in the league and a few new young QBs, they're really the ones to watch at the moment. The one that's most prevalent to me, I suppose, as a Bucks fan, is the Jameis Winston Taysom Hill debate over in New Orleans for the Saints. It seems, although the stats don't make it so clear cut, if you watch the highlights, you sort of look at it a bit closer. It looks like Jameis Winston almost has the job nailed on. Which, coming from a Bucks fans who watched him for 5 years and never saw anything quite this special, he looked really confident. He looked he was completing his passes. He was commanding the field. Although he only had, I think it was 1 or 2 drives. He scored two. I think he had 2 drives and got touchdowns on both.
2 touchdowns,
and no interceptions, which is unlikely for Jamie. For him as a Buccaneer, every touchdown was associated with at least 1 or 2 interceptions. So the fact he didn't get intercepted is quite impressive. But is that? I mean, the stats sort of, if you just go off those, they don't paint the entire picture. I think of how sort of stark the difference is. I think I've got written down here. Jameis Winston was 9 of 10 completions, for 123 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Which for 2 drives is pretty much as perfect as you can get. There wasn't much else he could have done to sort of build on that. But then, but if you look at Taysom Hill, I mean, he had I think he had an extra drive, or his drives were a bit more pass intensive. He was 11 of 20 for 138 yards, 1 touchdown, and also no interception. So he didn't have a bad game, but I think he sort of looks like that player who was almost filling in at QB, or looked like that player who was trying to challenge for the starting job, but was sort of like everyone knew he wasn't, which doesn't really because the whole doesn't really paint the full picture, because in general they are actually competing for the starting job, but the way Jameis Winston sort of came on, commanded the field, Taysom Hill came on, didn't really look the same. It looked like Jameis Winston had been the starter for 5 years, and then Taysom Hill was just the newbie coming in, trying to get a few drives in, but is gonna be the nailed on backup. So it's a really interesting thing, because I suppose some people might have seen that coming. Jameis Winston's somewhat of a vet. He was a number 1 overall pick, but it's a bit of an interesting one.
I think it is interesting as well, because you've obviously seen Taysom Hill for the last few years be that Swiss Army man, they call him down there. So he comes in to be that guy who can run the ball, he can catch the ball, he's on special teams, he's doing everything for the team, and I think that's not really what you want in a quarterback.
Yeah,
I mean that's what I'm thinking with if I'm playing Sean Payton, I'm obviously not, but I can't see how that would make sense in my mind, how you would want your starting QB to be in that many scenarios. It would just be too dangerous, almost reckless player management to have him in that, playing that many positions in a game. And also, like, the fact that they now have a solid quarterback to, like, not replace Drew Brees, obviously it's almost irreplaceable, but to play that role, it means that they can still use the similar game plan they were using with Taysom Hill in the first place, where he can run, catch, special teams, do all that. So I think it does make sense in my mind. I had Jameis on for first string anyway for most of since he was signed, really, like until since he was signed, since Brees left. So I think that was always in my mind. He's looking really good. I mean, that look, they're both the touchdowns well, actually. They're the same guy, and they're both like perfectly thrown deep balls right over the shoulder. I think one of them was one-handed, which credits the receiver, but they were really well thrown, accurate balls. So I think he has come on leaps and bounds. He's obviously in a different place, different mindset. So I think he's going to do really well.
Yeah, I think the Saints O-line probably been quite a lot. They've been used to for Drew Brees for whatever it's been, eight or however long. I mean, they've changed around, but a while.
Yeah.
So it's probably nice to have that protection. I mean, when he was on the Bucks, we didn't have Tristan Wirfs. We did have Ali Marpet, but we didn't. I wouldn't say we have the O-line we have for Tom Brady. No. So admittedly, he is. But what I was going to say on that is, you were saying sort of it's nice that they've got their guy to replace Drew Brees, but I do sort of somewhat because they're in the same division as the Bucks, but I don't because I like to see sort of teams succeed when they get new players. But what I was going to say is if this is sort of a false, like a bit of a fallacy, sort of a thing, like he plays really well in preseason, he shows he can do it, and then when they get to the full on season, everyone's playing their full teams, and he goes back to what he was doing at the Bucks, and then they switch into Taysom Hill, and he's not ready. He's been doing his tight end sort of stuff, and he's not really ready to go into QB. And all of a sudden, you see this powerhouse of the Saints, which we've seen for the last 10, 15 years, become sort of your average everyday side. Although, as I say, I wouldn't mind it because they're in the Bucks division. Probably two nice wins a season wouldn't be bad. But in general, like, I think it would be a bit disappointing because you can see the fact that they have brought in a newbie and they're doing this whole battle thing, that they are trying to replace Drew Brees, but it's going to be a big step. And as much as Jameis Winston has shown he can do it, I can't personally foresee it going this smoothly throughout the season. I don't see 9 of 10, 123 yards, no interceptions all season long personally, but I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's still preseason as well. You can't take it too. You can't take it too hard just yet. Like he's playing against second, third string defenses anyway.
Mhm.
So you can't. You got to take everything with a grain of salt, or
Yeah,
several in
absolutely.
this case.
The other one I wanted to talk about was I watched the highlights. I didn't manage to watch the game. It completely caught me out. The Jets game was on a Saturday, which completely caught me out. I would have tried to if it was on. I wasn't sure if it was on coverage, but if it was, I would have tried to watch it.
Yeah.
But I had no being on a Saturday caught me out. But Zach Wilson, who admittedly we have to take it as you say with a pinch of salt. He was playing against sort of second team defenses, everyone playing their newbies, and he only got one or two drives. He looked like when I remember, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago, watching Sam Darnold as a rookie, and he was until he got he had injury woes and he got that illness. I forgot what it's called now, but he he was running around, he was scrambling, as I say, he was making good throws on the run, he was commanding the field, he'd use his feet for that extra 5 or 6 yards if he needed to, and that's exactly what we saw from Zach Wilson. He only went for 9 passes, but he was 6 of 9 completions and 63 yards, which kind of doesn't paint the picture. I mean, it paints the picture in that he was solid. He for the 1 or 2 drives he got, he was fine, and he was confident. He didn't look like nervous. But on the other side, those stats, they don't even though he was playing against second, they don't paint him as a superstar just yet. You don't see that, and you don't instantly go, oh, that was a first round pick. I mean, if you covered up the name and you didn't know anything about the draft, and you said, what do you think this QB has been? How do you think his career has been so far? You'd probably say he's been backing up a veteran QB for the last 5 years with those stats. You might say like, oh, with those stats or that sort of thing, oh, he's just trying out in the preseason just in case he needs to come on during the season. Which, I mean, for a rookie, for a first round QB coming out in preseason, I think what you're either looking for is you're looking for someone who's really exciting. They sort of come out, they get 2 or 3, they get 3 or maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 drives. They get almost all their completions. They're throwing for a lot of dives. They maybe get intercepted, but that's because they're trying to be confident and throwing balls. Or alternatively, they come up, they're a deer in headlights. They're a bit sort of off the pace, and you can tell it's one of their first games in the league. But with Zach Wilson, looking at the stats, and then you don't really get that. You sort of just look like he didn't, although he was confident and commanding the field, he didn't do anything to sort of make everyone go wow. And that's why I sort of compare it to Sam Darnold, because I think that's sort of the same thing we got with him. We were like, oh, he looks confident, he looks good, he's on the Jets, but we don't see anything special coming out yet. I mean, I don't know if you remember watching Sam Darnold or if you caught any of the highlights, but you have anything to sort of add on that?
No, I do remember Sam Darnold. He was I don't remember him being quite as mobile as I don't remember Sam Darnold being quite as mobile as Zach Wilson. But I mean, he was still obviously fresh out of college, pretty agile for considering. But I everything you said, I can't really fault it. It's all making sense. It's all lining up for you. Like, I don't really have much else to add, unfortunately. I was going to say with your deer in the headlights thing. It's interesting because Zach Wilson and Trey Lance as well. Those two, both first round quarterbacks, obviously. Neither of them had like excellent opposition. They're both so BYU and North Dakota, I want to say. They're second board, probably not third string, but like they're second tier colleges realistically for talent. Like, so they're also playing against other second tier colleges. So they're not going to be like Conor just has to be up there anyway in order to succeed in the NFL, because otherwise you're just a second-rate quarterback playing in a second-rate league. So I think it's really good to see everyone like doing what they need to do in order to either in Zach Wilson's case pick up a starting spot, or maybe Trey Lance. What do you think about Trey Lance as well, actually? Because I'm not sure if he's going to get selected over Jimmy Garoppolo at this point.
I did have a look. I was watching SportsCenter the other day, and I remember they did do a sort of segment, and I can't remember it was either because they were talking about it, and it was either he did very well or he was sort of that deer in headlights. And I'm trying and bring it up now. But,
I'm pretty sure he did really well.
All right, okay, good.
I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but he was he was throwing some really good balls to these guys.
But they won. They lost to the Chiefs 19-16. Let me just see if I can get the full stats. So passing. How do I get to? Sorry, 1 second. Oh Jesus! Now I'm on. now I'm on YouTube highlights. Oh, there we go. 49ers.
Nice.
Trey Lance. Oh, he was 5 of 14, 128 yards and a touchdown. So, I mean,
okay, so it's not as good as I was thinking for week 1. Then must be.
Well, the 128 yards, touchdowns, no interceptions. That's not bad.
Good.
I mean, that's fine. But so 14 passes. I think he must have had 3 drives based off that.
Yeah,
I reckon he had 3 drives. He got a touchdown. He didn't get intercepted. So I think it shows. I think that's what I was saying earlier about when QBs coming out of college and they're wanting to show themselves. I mean, he hasn't got the interception to show for it, but the fact he's had a lot of incompletions and only 1 touch, I think it must have been. Yeah. I mean, I'll watch the highlights later, sometime in the future, and sort of come back and talk about it next episode to sort of reconcile what I've said. But I think what he's done, or what the stats paint the picture, is that he's come out in his first preseason game. He's tried to show he can throw the ball. He's shown he can with all the yardage, the touchdowns, and the no interceptions. He's shown he's got the competence, but maybe he was a bit maybe instead of sort of slinging the ball around and getting like that, I think maybe 3 controlled drives, maybe 9 or 10 of 14, the same yardage and maybe an extra touchdown. That would sort of meant for me a slightly better game, but I don't think personally, until I watch the highlights, although the completion percentage is less than 50%, it doesn't worry me massively. Although even I'm not a 49ers fan, so I think it would worry me anyway. But it doesn't make me sort of think, oh, he was a waste of a draft pick, or he could have gone a bit lower.
Yeah.
On the other hand, Josh Rosen, everyone's favorite backup, was 10 of 15, 93 yards, no touchdowns and interception, which is pretty much as Josh Rosen I expect from him. He's had twice as many completions as Trey Lance, but for less yardage and an interception. So I mean,
I don't know if I don't know if I'm making this up or not, but I feel like I read somewhere that they're dropping Josh Rosen now, San Francisco.
49ers are, well, as of since the game.
Yeah, I think so. Unless I'm going crazy, I can't.
I'll Google it. I mean, he gets thrown around the team so much. I mean, we had him.
Yeah.
You're right. He's going to the Falcons now.
Well, there you go.
So he was Cardinals 10th overall, wasn't he? Or 9th overall? Wait, maybe.
Yeah.
Then he was Miami. Then he was Miami. Then he was Buccaneers, and now the 49ers, and now Falcons. So he's getting. Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking at because I'm just trying to think. Falcons QBs. They've got obviously Matt Ryan. They've got Matt Ryan, AJ McCarron, who's sort of again another one who's been thrown around the teams a few times. And now Josh Rosen. So I don't know if teams are sort of every time he becomes a free agent, they're like, oh, a free agent top 10 pick from 3 years ago. How are we not going to jump at that?
How can that go wrong?
Yeah, how was that? Yeah, so. It's an interesting one, but I mean, to be honest, he was so confident coming out of. I think the quote was let's say he was 9th overall. I think the quote was when he got drafted, they were doing the mic and he was like, "Oh, there were 8 mistakes made before me" or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, no one sort of,
no one's questioning, no one's,
but,
no one's thinking that now.
Yeah. So. And then Jimmy Garoppolo did do three passes, 3 completions, 26 yards. So either he came on and did a few passes, or he came on at the end and just sort of saw it out or something. I don't know. But it's interesting that I think Jimmy Garoppolo will start this season. But whether Trey Lance takes over, I can't, because 49ers were a Super Bowl team 2 seasons ago.
2 years ago, 2 years ago.
So they've got a very good defense. They've got. If Jimmy Garoppolo plays well, they've got Kittle.
They have lost Richard Sherman though, so that could be a big thing for them. It is bothering me as a Seattle fan, like just seeing the fact that he got 120 odd yards off 5 completions.
Yeah,
that's quite worrying. Like,
I think
if he can sort out his accuracy / decision making problems, that's not going to be fun for me.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean,
twice a year.
Yeah, I mean, it's what I'm saying about sort of painting the right pick, because in theory, 128 yards could be 5 really good 25 long yard passes, or it could be 4 checkdowns and a long touchdown pass. So you don't, without watching the highlights, you don't entirely know how it happened. But if it happens to be, if it's what I think it is, and it's him being confident, he's running around the pocket, he's throwing long passes, trying to make the sort of prime time completions, then that's quite exciting. And he's going to be an exciting player. But if I'm wrong and it's just he did 4 checkdowns, missed 9 other completions, and then made 1 long completion, then he's just maybe the stats lie a bit. But for the moment, but to be honest, I think from just one, it's too difficult. I know I'm making a lot of conclusions. I'm being quite conclusive with each one. I'm saying like, oh, Zach Wilson's a new sign. Jameis. It is, when we look at it, only one preseason game, so we don't want to get too carried away. I think once we've had preseason weeks 3 and 4, we can make a more informed decision. Weeks 1 or 2 regular season, we'll have. I mean, even though some of these rookie QBs we won't see till the end of the season, even this season at all. But we'll just have to see how it goes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but the other one, when we did this, must have been show 2 or 3. We talked about what we were most excited to see from the NFL preseason, and my pick was the Jacksonville Jaguars. I wanted to see because they had a few young players. They've obviously got the Gardner Minshew supposedly paving way for Trevor Lawrence, but so far we haven't seen it. They've been very. I mean, I know. Again, it's only one preseason game, but I want to say they've been a bit mediocre. I've been Travis Etienne getting injured. That's very unfortunate. And I mean,
he's out for the year as well, which is probably the worst.
I think. I mean, I'm not. I know he's out for at least 12 weeks because he's had surgery. But I think I saw that they've now placed him on IR, so that would put him out for the season.
Already?
I think I saw it. I mean, I don't want to confirm. I think I saw it. So I mean, if you're out for 12 weeks, I mean, it's a bit. I mean, that's a pretty long. That seems like a conservative estimate, anyway. But I suppose the one good thing I saw was someone commenting on it. They said I think is it Robinson, the Jaguars' second string running back after him. They were like, oh, he's just made in everyone's fantasy draft. He's just gone up 50 places or something like that. But
I don't know why. I don't know why they drafted another running back anyway. When James Robinson also ran for 1,000 yards, I think he ran for 1,300 last year. So I mean, I think unless they've definitely tried to build up a rushing attack to help out Trevor.
Well, I personally, I really like running back duos. If I was a star running back, I personally wouldn't mind having another. Even don't have to be another superstar. They just have to be another solid running back. So if you're taking 2/3, 60% of the reps or something, and they just come in on third down, or they every time you do 3/4 of the drive, they do a little bit, or they just power they set you up and you power them in or something like that. I don't think running back duos are a bad idea. So I can see why they've done it, but then at the same time, there are holes in the Jaguars team. So using a first round pick on a running back who then gets injured might come back to bite them when they could have taken a corner to replace the whole Jalen Ramsey left or things like that. So it's a bit of a tough one. I'm sure it's a tough one for the Jaguars to take, because I think this is complete. They must have had a game plan for the season revolving around Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne, bringing a bit of excitement to the team, and they're now going to have to restructure that. So now, I think just speculating, but I think the Jaguars' idea for this season was bring in fresh blood, have Trevor Lawrence starting, Travis Etienne taking a bulk of the reps at running back. No one's worked them out. Everyone's only seen them in college. They bring a bit of excitement. And they're sort of that sort of thing where a team has a good draft period, and then the following season they come out really strong. I think that might have been what they were going for. But now what I foresee them without that new fresh running back, people have seen Robinson play, and so it sort of seems like Trevor Lawrence might be bound to play a bit more like Gardner Minshew and just sort of continue what they were doing last season with just a bit more like prolificence, whatever the word, professionalism. I don't know. However I want to say it, but a bit more sort of confidence or competence at quarterback. So we'll have to see. But talking about that in particular, I don't know if you've seen. I've got the stats for Trevor Lawrence written down again here. He had no touchdowns and no interceptions, which is fine. But he was 14 of 23 for 113 yards, which compared to the other quarterbacks we've seen, I mean, where people like Trey Lance, people like Trey Lance and Taysom Hill were making the same the same touchdowns, interceptions, yardages, but off 5 or 6 less completions, and they didn't have. Well, Trey Lance did, but other QBs didn't have 9 incompletions. So yeah.
Those QBs also don't have James. What's the name? The running back Jacksonville, James Robinson. Is it Robinson?
Yeah, Robinson. Yeah.
They don't have him at running. They don't have a decent running back, so Lawrence could have just set him up because Robinson's a power back anyway. Like he can easily bump it in from a couple of yards out. So if he gets in that scenario, he's probably going to do that anyway. That could explain it. Again, I haven't seen it, so I haven't seen anything.
I'm just going to look at who was running for the Jaguars. I mean, whether they they actually played 4 QBs. Trevor Lawrence and Gardner Minshew. Trevor Lawrence and Gardner Minshew had a drive or 2 each. Yeah. Then the 2 other QBs I haven't heard of, Jake Luton and CJ Beathard. I haven't heard of them personally.
I've heard of them.
Right. Well, they had a touchdown each, and they threw for a good number of completions and yardage. So it doesn't immediately spring to me why they chose to do that, play so many QBs, but. Each their own. In terms of rushing, James Robinson was 3 carries, 13 yards, which is fine. As I say, I think he might have just come on and done a few power runs.
You'd think, couldn't you?
The main runner was, I'm gonna again what Jack did earlier. I'm gonna struggle with this. Dare Ogunbowale.
I haven't heard of him, I'm afraid.
Make heads or tails it? No, so I haven't heard of him. But 8 carries, 24 yards. So again. Fine, sounds like a bit of a power back. So it sounds like the from what this was another game that came up on Sports Center. So I think from what they were saying on that, I'm pretty sure I've watched partial of the highlights, but not totally myself. I think the main problem for the Jaguars was their O-line, and I think that's what hindered Trevor Lawrence. I think he was struggling behind, getting rushed quite a lot, having to use his feet, which I haven't watched. I've watched a few of Trevor Lawrence's highlights from college, but from what I remember, he can scramble out the pocket, but he's more of a field general. He likes to control the game from a standing from behind a strong O-line. So I think he may have been caught out a little bit by having to move around a little bit more, or having to make quick decisions, quick check downs, slants and things, which I don't think are his game altogether. Because I mean, I think when Trevor Lawrence was coming out of the draft, he was seen as this confident passer, commanding person, not well, no, I don't know if it would be harsh to call him sort of a boring player, but not like this electrifying Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, run around, throw passes, diving sort of thing. So yeah, it's an interesting one to think about. But I mean, as I say, I mean, I'm not worried about the Jaguars having wasted the first. I'm sure he's going to be an absolute star in the NFL, but just off this first week, it shows that perhaps, although we'll learn more from weeks 3 and 4, it shows that maybe he's not going to be a superstar bursting out the gates. Maybe we are going to have to wait a few weeks or a season to get into prime Trevor Lawrence time. But I mean, as I say, we're only through 2 weeks of the preseason, so we'll just have to see what comes in the future. Is there those guys are all I wanted to say about the preseason, because I was mostly looking at QBs, and so there's a little bit of running back particularly. Is there anything you in particular wanted to cover?
I haven't. No, you've covered everyone I wanted to cover as well. I mean, I brought up Trey Lance for you, as well. Absolutely. So that's you covered everyone I wanted to cover. I've covered everything as well. So
So I think we'll probably again we'll probably try and touch on the same thing next week. But again, it'll only be one more week into preseason, so I don't think we'll have too many conclusions to make. So I think probably 2 podcasts from now, in a couple of weeks' time, we'll look back on a sort of macroscopic view of the preseason as a whole and see sort of which players we liked, which players we didn't. But maybe I think from off the top of my memory, there's one. It's either week 3 or 4 that there's sort of a gentleman's agreement among the teams that they all play a slightly stronger team, just so we get to see at least some of the players. We get to see Aaron Rodgers back in Green Bay, and we get to see whether, or personally from what I'm excited to see is I want to see the Bucks play their full, because I don't want to be absolutely sure, but I'm pretty sure the Buccaneers are the only team who retained all 22 starters, I want to say. So it'd be interesting to see if we play our full team again and see how they. But if we have to wait till week 1 of the season, we have to wait till week 1 and not too worried about it. So if there's nothing else you wanted to cover, I think we can probably finish it there. If you're all right. Well,
no, I'm happy with that.
All good. All right. Thank you everyone for watching. We hope you enjoyed watching or listening to this podcast as much as we enjoyed making it. Although it's a shorter and sweeter one this week, we've enjoyed touching on a few things. And as I say, it's the NBA and the NFL off season. So whatever we like to keep up with things, but we're not really into the season too much. If you're new to the channel, please do hit the subscribe button, put notifications on, like the video if you enjoyed listening to us. And as I mentioned at the beginning, do check out the new and improved merch. It's you can find the link on our Instagram, or I believe it's probably down below. And we'll see you next week for another episode. It's bye from me. And
cool. Cheers, guys.